Welcome to this session from LSE Life on writing your AC100 report. This session is designed to help you with the report specifically, but also with your writing skills more generally. Here's what the session will focus on. What is a report? And how to write your report in 3 simple steps. So let's look at some of the essentials. It should not exceed 1500 words. It should be submitted on Moodle in PDF format. It is important to double space your work and use a 12-point font such as Arial or Times New Roman. And it's due at 11 AM on Monday the 23rd of January 2023. So what is a report? Well, a report is written for a clear purpose and to a particular audience. Specific information and evidence are presented, analysed and applied to a particular problem or issue. The information is presented in a clearly structured format, making use of sections and headings so that the information is easy to locate and follow, and it's concise and to the point. And why is report writing important? So report writing is unlikely to be something you just need to do now because it's a significant portion of your grade. It's also something that nearly all of us at some point will need to do in our professional lives, whichever field we choose to go into. Therefore, you should consider this assignment not only important because of the grade, but a crucial chance to begin to practice your report writing skills and your writing skills in general. Therefore, it is essential you understand the purpose of the report brief and adhere to its specifications. You should gather, evaluate, and analyse the relevant information. You should structure material in a logical and coherent order based on the recommended structure in the guidelines. You should present your report in a consistent manner according to the instructions of the report brief. And you should make appropriate conclusions that are supported by the evidence and analysis of the report. Therefore, we can break this into 3 simple steps. Make sure you thoroughly understand the instructions, analyse the data and evidence, and write up your findings. So let's look now at understanding the instructions. The instructions provided to you are so detailed for a good reason. Student feedback has made it clear over the years that they want clear and precise direction. Therefore, you should take the time to read all the instructions incredibly carefully in detail and make notes across these instructions to make sure you thoroughly understand what you have been asked to do. So to navigate step 1 effectively, firstly, review the detailed instructions. You have been provided with a lot of the data you need. You are also recommended to go beyond this where you can. Your job is to analyse the information by critically evaluating it and write about it as if you are a financial analyst. So how are you going to do this? Well, your case report should focus on critically evaluating financial information from financial statements and interpreting financial ratios. You've been given a set of questions. Sketch some answers to these to help form the report. Remember, you are not being asked to simply write answers to these questions. These questions have been designed as thinking prompts. Sketching out rough answers to these will help you in that thinking process. You should focus on the data and information you've been provided with. But also don't forget the importance of broader information gathered from your own research. Do not forget to adhere to the criteria for submission. It has to be a PDF to submit to Moodle. It must not exceed the word count. The file needs to be labelled exactly as you have been told to in the guidelines. Remember, this can't be submitted directly to your class teacher by email or handed to them. You have been provided with a structure: an introduction to the company, keeping this very brief, recent performance of the companies, relevant data and statistics, accounting for research and development costs, reasons for the difference in accounting assumptions, and recommendations to the FASB. Remember, it is essential to follow this. Any significant deviation from this structure will lead to a loss of 25% of your overall mark. So here is one possible structure. This is not the only structure, but just a suggestion. An introduction of about 150 words, discussion around the recent performance with around 300 words, accounting and R&D costs with around 300 words, reasons for differences with around 300 words, and recommendations with around 300 words. It is helpful to break up the word count like this before you get started, as then you can more effectively plan your approach to each section if you know how many words you are working with. As you'll have no doubt realised, this is less than 1500 words, but it allows you space to cover a little here and there more, while still coming in under the 1500 word count. Let's look at step 2, analysing the data. You should think of yourself as a detective in this process. You are tracing through the evidence to understand why the company has performed as it does, deciphering the information to understand the trends or why things happened the way they happened. This is why you are given questions as a guide only. The questions are there to support your detective work, but they are not everything. So what have you been given? Well, you have been given useful information such as research and development in the auto industry, some background on Fiat Chrysler and Volkswagen, research and development specifically at FCA and VW, graphs and tables with information about the companies. But can you think of anything else that might be useful? Where might you find that information? Well, the reference list of this article may be a good starting point. And if you look at it, you'll see that it's quite detailed with links to numerous sources that you might want to have a look at. Okay, let's move on to writing of the report. Now here are some examples of common weaknesses often noted by markers. The piece of work didn't answer the question, or brief at all, or fully. The writing was too descriptive. It was lacking in critical analysis. The structure was not clear, so the marker could not follow the argument, and sources and information were used inappropriately, whether this be purely used incorrectly or not relevant to the answer or just used too much. So how do you make sure your writing avoids these issues? Well, in the case of this report, you've been given a very thorough assessment criteria. Please make use of it. It clearly breaks down the points you will receive against each objective of the report. And what is the criteria most consistently looking for? That it is well written, clearly structured and presented. We've looked at the structure expected, but what does well written actually mean? Well, let's take a look at another key piece of guidance. The arguments are informed and balanced. And it seems like this gives us some guidance on what the marker is looking for. if something is well written. Put simply, you must critically evaluate everything you read, all the evidence you choose to use. This is of course easy to say, but how do you do this? Well, the following table breaks this down more clearly. Critical and analytical writing will do the following. It will identify the significance of what happened. Instead of stating what something is like, it looks at the strengths and weaknesses. Instead of just simply taking you through the story so far, it weighs up pieces of information and selects which are the most relevant. Instead of explaining what a theory says, instead it looks at why that theory is relevant or useful. Instead of explaining how something works, it indicates why something will work better. Instead of saying why something occurred, it identifies why the timing was important. Instead of stating the different components, it weighs up the importance of each component and can justify these. Instead of stating options, it gives reasons for the selection of each option. Instead of listing things in any order, it structures information in order. Instead of stating links between items, it shows the relevance of these links between pieces of information. Instead of just purely giving information, it draws conclusions. So when writing, don't just write facts or answers to the questions. Try to give evidence and also analyse and evaluate that evidence. Write something that is clear and easy to read and concise. And think about reports you may have read. What did you enjoy reading? Why did you enjoy reading it? Or why did you find it easy to read? This is the type of style you want to emulate. Let's look a little bit more on another important aspect of writing, referencing and plagiarism. How do we avoid plagiarism? By ensuring we reference carefully and correctly. Even the best piece of work, when referenced incorrectly, will lose significant marks, so it is essential to get this right. So please make sure you follow the Harvard author date referencing style exactly as it is in the brief. Ensure that any quotations used are placed within quotation marks and cited fully. Ensure that any paraphrased material is clearly acknowledged. Avoid copying and pasting material from your notes. And remember that self-plagiarism is also plagiarism. If you refer to work you previously submitted, reference this. And lastly, here are a few ways LSE Life can help you. You can book a one-to-one with a student advisor where you can discuss your report in more detail. These are available both online and in person, Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m, and are bookable on the Student Hub. We have online workshops continuing for the rest of term, and next year's sessions are bookable now. And the LSE Life Moodle page has a lot of useful resources you can access anytime, including more short videos like this on lots of study-related topics. Thanks for listening.